Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining tonight. My name is Reverend Susie Verde. I am a One Spirit graduate from the class of 2015, and I am a lover of the Divine Feminine. I have been teaching and studying and traveling to France for many years now. Um, and I just fell in love with Mary Magdalene and the Divine Mother, actually, since my first trip to the south of France, to Lourdes, in the fall of 2014. And when I was invited to go there and teach a meditation group. At the time, I was very involved with a Brazilian healing modality. That it's a long story, but anyways, I was invited to go to France to lead groups, and as you can tell by my accent, I am Brazilian. I'm not American, and I came to this country pretty much in search for deepening my spiritual knowledge, and at the same time bridging spirit. So I've been doing this for many years. First between Brazil and the U.S., and then from the U.S. to France, and then to France to Brazil. And so now I have this big triangle universe in which I mingle and I connect all sorts of different spiritual meaning and spiritual deities that can help us awaken to who we really are and what we're really here to do. And so in 2015, when I went to France for the first time, I knew I was on Mary Magdalene's land. And I was in a very privileged situation because I was being received by the local community. I had people wanting to take me around. I had homes and families and people who were very willing to support me in anything I wanted to do. And so I recruited a group of amazing women, and I said, you know what? I feel so called to walk the Mary Magdalene's path, and I want to experience her energy and her power in my life. I want to really understand who was this woman, what role did she have in early Christianity, and why her voice is so strong and powerful these days. Why is everybody talking about Mary Magdalene? And so I did. What happened was, because of my original background as a Brazilian medium, even before I became a minister, I was already working with Brazilian mediumship, and so I'm very familiar with the type of wisdom tradition that can happen in a direct way, and that's what happened between me and our beloved Mary Magdalene, because I started to feel her, know her. I started to receive all sorts of wonderful downloads from her, and it felt to me that part of my next mission as a minister and as a spiritual person interested in sharing the love and helping people awaken to who they really are and what they're really here to do was to share her teachings. And so I have a few slides that I want to share with you, and they're part of the Gnostic texts. And for those who are not familiar what Gnostic texts are all about, they are some very rare and special documents that were found in Nag Hammadi in Egypt in 1945. They were very carefully packed inside of a jar in the desert, in the Dead Sea, where it's very, very dry, and they survived. They survived 2,000 years, you know, and so those texts have very, very important messages that the people that actually hid them there perhaps thought that it was not safe for humanity to know a lot of the information that was contained there, who actually not only presented a very different picture to the Jesus we know, but also to the deeper message of Jesus. And also the fact that he had a group of men and women who walked with him. And amongst this group, there was Mary Magdalene, a woman who actually was very evolved, very, very evolved. And for me, being a woman, and I can assure for many of you too, you know, it always felt very uncomfortable to hear that there was a prostitute in the Bible somewhere that had 7 demons expelled, and perhaps it was because she was too beautiful or too sexy or too this or too that. And and when I realized that this woman was perhaps the most evolved disciple of Jesus, that Jesus actually chose not only her, but he saw in her the chalice, the grail, the receptacle to his teachings, which were, as we know, very advanced. But Jesus talked through metaphors. And so the levels of understanding to his teachings, they vary greatly. And they vary according to the level of consciousness that each person who hears is able to make the connections that are possible due to the level of consciousness of the one that is receiving the message. And so it's very interesting to think that, and we're going to go through the texts, but to think that for the last 2,000 years we've been led by men who didn't even have a clue of what he was talking about. And that shocks me. That shocks me. And at the same time, it also reminds me of the important times we're living now, the important times that we are now being asked to really awaken to the feminine wisdom that is inside of all of us, men and women, because we are now able to hear and to learn with someone who was ostracized by the mainstream, the male mainstream, because she knew too much. And she was kind of weird because of that. Because when we go through the texts, and tonight, unfortunately, in 1 hour, it's going to be impossible to go through all the texts. But we see that the core message of Jesus was a message of inner transformation. He kept talking about the kingdom of God as being inside of us. He kept talking about, do not look further outside. Do not believe if someone tells you he's here, he's there, because the Son of God lives inside of you. And so this is what the whole message of the Gnostic texts are telling us. They're putting us to think. They're inviting us to really go through an inner transformation so that we are able to grow in consciousness, so that we're able to start understanding that Jesus was talking about oneness. Oneness, a concept that some people think is Buddhist or is Oriental, and it's not. He was talking about the power of oneness. He was talking about the power of when we align ourselves so deeply with the life force that we become one with the beloved. And when we become one with the beloved, then we become children of God. And then everything is possible. So, and the other thing I wanted to show, to just mention to you, is the Jesus' message was not about doing. He was not a Messiah that was liberating the Jewish people. He was not prone to war. He would not even react when they decided to crucify him, because it was not about the male way. The male way, the old male way, is about the doing. The female way, the sacred female way, is about being. And the being requires inner transformation. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I have some movie that I would like to share with you. It's just brief. And it's a teaser from the newest Mary Magdalene movie, which is awesome. It was actually produced with the material from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And I just would like you to pay attention to the dialogues, because you're going to start connecting with a completely different and new archetype of the sacred female through Mary Magdalene. So, David, if you can help me with that.
Your family says you grapple with the demon.
If there's a demon in me, it's always been there.
There are no demons here, Mary of Magdala.
I'm not a religious expert, and I'm not necessarily religious either, but the thing that we connected to is the spiritual message, and in some ways that's the message that's been lost today, and I think that's the whole point, is that we're taking people back to the core message of Jesus, that we all have it in us, so I just had to trust that.
We're seeing Jesus' life through her eyes and through her experience. There's never been a story about Mary Magdalene, and that's quite different than anything we've seen before.
Why shouldn't she follow him?
People will judge us.
The religious epic is a genre of its own, and we all have various opinions of Mary Magdalene, some of them wildly incorrect.
She will do God's will.
I feel that it's a really fascinating narrative about a tiny group of people who felt they could change the world.
God's kingdom is not to be bought and sold! We need to take him away from here.
Whatever happens now, it's what God has asked of him.
Mary hears that message and interprets it as something entirely different, that the kingdom is actually within us. Through love and compassion and forgiveness, we have the power to be the great change that the world needs.
We really wanted to teach the audience and teach the characters to discover the answers, not be told what they are.
I think there's something really beautiful in what Jesus was saying, not just as a spiritual leader, but as a healer and as a man. And I think that that's something that audiences of all kinds can take something out of.
I will not be silent. I will be heard.
So now I would like to share with you some slides, and I'm just going to go through some slides with you, and I would love if you type your comments and questions on the chat. And honestly, I think we could spend the whole weekend talking about this material because it's so amazing, and we only have 1 hour, so I'm not rushing, and at the same time we just have to go through them. I'm very happy to share those slides with you later if you want. So, every one of these recently discovered sources that mention Mary Magdalene, sources that include the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, Verde Sophia, Wisdom of Faith, and the Dialogue of the Savior, unanimously picture Mary as one of Jesus' most trusted disciples. Some even revere her as his foremost disciple, Jesus' closest confidant, since he found her capable of understanding his deepest secrets. So if you don't know Elaine Pagels, she's amazing. She's an authority. She's the author of the Gnostic Gospels, and she knows her stuff. And basically, what she's, what I'm intrigued, and I would like to point out to you here, is that she chose to use the expression deepest secrets. She was capable of understanding his deepest secrets. So think about secrets as not something that he wanted to hide, but perhaps content that he was not ready, or that people were not ready to see disclosed, because they would involve a higher level of consciousness. So say, for instance, like when I talked about the oneness, the concept of oneness, it was so far out of the level of consciousness of that male society, you know, at that time of 2,000 years ago. He could certainly not talk about that, but he could say that he and his father were one, and my father is also your father. And if you believe in me, you can do everything that I did and more. So he was talking about this sense of, unity, that most people would think, oh yeah, there's a guy in the sky and he's his son. And so we tend to create our anthropomorphic version of his teachings. But here Elaine talks about secrets, meaning that they are very deep and profound teachings. And so in Pittis Sophia, a dialogue between the risen Christ and the disciples take place. Only three, Matthew, Judas, and Mary Magdalene. But out of 46 questions of this dialogue, 39 were asked by Mary Magdalene. I mean, she really was on her game, that woman, 39. And then she says, the power given to us by the Savior, and which now manifests itself as a light body within us. My beloved, not only the light body has ears, but my soul has also heard and understood all your words. The light body within me guided me, rejoiced and filled me as if it wished to leave me and enter into you. So this is a major text for Mary Magdalene, by the way, because it really shows how there was a process that took place in Mary Magdalene through that relationship, through that exposure to the Christ energy, that she herself became enlightened. And so we're talking about a master in her own right. We're talking about someone that not only has realized her light, but she realized that by receiving that light and becoming light herself, she says, not only the light body has ears, but my soul has also heard. So the theme of ears, being able to hear, being able to see, I mean, obviously we can all hear and see, but we do that on a physical level. Not everybody has awakened to our capacity to see and to hear through the soul. And that's what Mary Magdalene was able to see, to do. That's exactly what happened, for instance, in the Gospel of Mary, when Jesus says to her, because she's the one who saw him risen, right? The first one. And it was not a coincidence. It was not just because she was there with the oils, she just happened to be there. It's because she was an initiated, and she was the only one who could see. She had received the light body within her, and that opened her completely. And then she says, the light body within me guided me, rejoiced and filled me. Can you imagine be filled, completely filled by grace? This is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's just the most unbelievable experience that any human being can have. And it entered, and so it as if it wished to leave me and enter into you. So there's this oneness again. I am you, you are me, we're one. And so this is mystical. This is profound. And then this passage of the Gospel of Mary, then this is when, after she's seen the risen Christ, she runs back to where the apostles were hiding, because they were all hiding, right? The guys were all hiding. And she is the one who went there and the dawn to with the oils. And then she sees Jesus, her Rabboni, her beloved. And she comes back and she transmits the good news. Nobody believes in her. And then after that, Peter, who really didn't like her at all, says, "Sister, we know that the Savior loved you more than the rest of us. Tell us the words the Savior, which you remember, which you know, but we do not, nor have we heard them." So again, hearing. Maybe he actually transmitted the words, but they were not able to apprehend it. They were not able to get them. They were not able to get the teachings. So here, Peter is clearly speaking to Mary as someone who somehow is higher up. She got something that they didn't. Nobody else did, just her. And so also she is working as a bridge, because he tells us the words of the Savior. So basically, all of a sudden, hours after his passage, she was the one telling them his words. She was the first apostle, not only because she announced the resurrection, as the church suggests, tell us now. She's known as Saint Mary Magdalene now, after hundreds of years of being a penitent and a sinner. Now she's a saint, because the fact that she was the very first apostles, the one who announced. To be an apostle means to be an announcer. So she announced to the announcers that the Christ was risen. But not only that, she also taught them. And this is a very important fact, that it was hidden from most people, that Mary was the first teacher and the first translator. Because if they didn't get the message and they were asking her to translate it to them, it means that she knew a lot more than them. She was higher in their capacity to get the message, to get the teachings. And one of the things she said was, "Be not sorrowful and irresolute," because they were so afraid. They were so afraid. Peter said, if they crucified Jesus, what are they going to do with us? They were completely petrified. And then comes this woman and says to them, "Hey, hang on a minute. His Spirit will guide you and comfort you. Let us rather praise his greatness, for he has prepared us for this. He asked us to be truly human beings." Now, in the original text, it says anthropos. Anthropos. Anthropos means fully human. So there's a lot of debate about what that means, to be fully anthropos. And Jean-Yves Leloup, who is a scholar, and he wrote an amazing book about the Gospel of Mary, he says that means that she was somebody who was able to enter the chamber of the heart. She was awakened, and because she was awakened, mystically, she had received the light within her. She had made contact with the beloved. She was one with the beloved. And the meeting of the beloved and the bride and the groom in the mystical level is in the chamber of the heart, which is in the heart level, the heart chakra, meaning that nobody can understand God. We can only conceive God through love. So God is not an idea and not a concept and not a guy and not a man, and doesn't live in a place called heaven that nobody has an address for. It's a much deeper experience than that. it's a revelation, is an awakening, is a breakthrough experience, is a possibility for us to realize who we really are. It's about becoming anthropos, meaning being fully human and fully divine at the same time. Exactly how Jesus was, fully human and fully divine at the same time. And what he came to tell us was that we're all anthropos, on the path of, because we are realizing our divinity while here on earth. So part of the story with Mary Magdalene is about being able to love the fact that we are here. Love the fact that we are humans. And this is a very different approach from the male perspective. Because the male perspective, the canon, the canonic religion, the male canonic religion talks about spirit as being pure and matter as being impure. So basically, in order for us to ascend spiritually, we had to deny our physicality. We had to deny our humanness. We had to deny this dimension because it was dirty. And everything else along with it. The body, sex, sensuality, and women, of course, because of Eve. So this is very complicated. Very complicated because Jesus' message was never limited to genre and to, you know, make a statement about the superiority of men over women. He was trying to talk about oneness, and in this from this perspective, male and female are complementary, and he knew that very well. And so, can you imagine trying to talk about this kind of subject to a society that really thought that women were not even worth living? So the fact that Mary Magdalene had to play a very important role in this whole drama was because, in my understanding, Jesus was preparing the collective consciousness to finally be able to integrate the wisdom of the female soul when collectively we would be ready to go beyond polarity, when we would finally be able to understand that the excessive male energy was in fact a handicap in our ability to see God. Because if we can only see God with the heart and we can only experience his reality, his experience, his existence through the bridal chamber that is actually described in many mystical books as being the place in which we become the beloved. You see, the beloved, like Rumi used to say, like the Sufis describe God, is the one that we merge from and with, that we merge with. And so it's the mystical understanding of God is definitely not this guy out there, is this presence that burns within us, burns in our hearts, that transforms our lives, that does allow us to see ourselves from a completely different perspective and to share this amazing consciousness with the world so that the whole world can start thinking better, not only about themselves, but about everybody else. And so we evolve as a body of consciousness. And that's so important because now, just on a little sidetrack, we are moving to a whole new level of consciousness in the planet. So we need to leave the old ways. We need to leave the ways, the patriarchal ways that has kept us hostage of a very, very limited way of not only seeing ourselves, but seeing the world and to do our part in a very important transformation that's taking place right now. So in the Gospel of Philip, It's another Gnostic text. And I'm just like, this is a potpourri of very beautiful texts. But, Philip again, he acknowledges Mary Magdalene. And he says Jesus would always kiss her in public. And the other disciples were jealous of her. And then they asked Jesus, so why do you love more than you love us? And Jesus looked at them and said, why do I love her more than I love you? And a lot of people take this answer romantically, like, thinking, well, because they were a couple. But I would stretch a little bit more. And I just would like you ladies, there's a lot of women here today, and gentlemen. But you know what? She was a master at her own right. So loving here means recognizing that she had an amazing human being that was cracked open by the power of love. She was the one who got it. And so he was not just, in love with her, therefore he loved her more than the other apostles. For God's sake, he was on a mission, perhaps the greatest mission of all humankind. And he could see that this woman was getting it. So he would love any of us who actually make a step into breaking open to his love as well. So the mystical point here is, it's not that Jesus loved her more, is that Jesus loves those who can understand what he's really all about. And then there's a mystical connection that is established. And so, and also in the ancient times, the kiss was an act of the initiated. So people who were initiated would commonly kiss. And there are authors that sustain that this had nothing to do with a romantic relationship, although this can be argued. But the fact is, it's not a done deal that this is a romantic kiss. Instead, we could also say that it's an initiatic act between two very high beings, the teacher and the beloved who became one with the teacher. So this is a piece from the Gospel of Thomas. And then Simon said to them, to the apostles, Mary should leave us, for females are not worthy of life. Jesus said, see, I'm going to attract her to make her male, so that she too might become a living spirit that resembles you males. For every female that makes itself male will enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, the first time I read this part, this saying, I was shocked because I thought, oh my God, this sounds so misogynist. But you see, as in every text, you need to understand the subtleties of the text. So, first of all, I want you to notice that he says that resembles you males, although he's a man. And so that suggests that he's talking about a level of consciousness, not gender, because the whole spirituality of Jesus was not gender limited. And so what a lot of scholars were talking about here is that according to the Jewish tradition, males would be more worthy of receiving the graces of God. So women were not worthy of living, and men were the ones who, would go to heaven, be acknowledged, and be considered the real children of God. And so what Jesus is doing here is he's playing with the genders, and he's saying that in fact he can awaken anybody, male or female, to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's not relevant, Otherwise, he would say that resembles us, males. He doesn't say that. He says you, meaning you all need to awaken to a greater truth so that you can enter the kingdom of heaven. So entering the kingdom of heaven is a big thing, and it's a very deep concept, what it means to enter a place that in fact exists on the level of consciousness. It is by breaking free of the illusion, the veils that keep us hostage of what it is that we think we are. And so there's no place to go. This all happens on this sphere of the beingness, transforming duality into oneness. And so there are many texts on the Gospel of Thomas that talk about the initiation between, towards like the unity, moving from duality to unity with you. So, all right, so does anybody would like, okay, so David says, the book of Mary is not the Bible. It is in the Gnostic Gospels, along with other important early Christian writings discovered in the century in Egypt. Correct. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. The book of Mary Magdalene, in fact, it was not found with the Nag Hammadi documents. It was found earlier, much earlier, in the 19th century, but it was hidden. It was kept hidden in Germany for many years, and then it was going to be published, and then there was the First World War, and then it was the Second World War, and it finally got published around the same time as the other Gnostic Gospels. So, yeah. So anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment or offer your wisdom in what we shared so far? Hi, Anne. Again.
Hello there. I am wondering what the relationship between Mary Magdalene and the Cathars are. I recently started to get connected to Cathars, and as I was doing that, I had a meditation where I was told to become a devotee of Mary Magdalene. And I know they followed her, but my understanding is they also had that duality that you spoke of in the early Christian religions of matter and spirit and physical and spiritual. So that's where I'm confused with where she fits in with that, because my understanding of their beliefs might be a little naive, but that's where I'm confused.
So the Cathars were a group of, they were also called the Pure Ones, and they were a group of very dedicated Christians that lived in the south of France, in the region of the Languedoc, Occitan Languedoc. And what happened was that region is exactly the area in which Mary Magdalene lived and preached when she left Jerusalem after the crucifixion. She left on a boat, and she came to the south of France with a number of people, including Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. And some people say Saint Sarah also was in the boat with them. And the reason why they came to France was because Pontius Pilatus' wife was a follower of Jesus. And France, Pays de Gaulle, at that time, was a Roman dominated area. So it was all organized for them to escape Jerusalem because it was very dangerous for them to stay there at the time. And so Mary Magdalene preached for many years in the south of France. And that's why it's so, her presence is so strong in that area. It's so very strong. And then what happened was, but it was like in the year 40 after Christ. But then in the Middle Ages, in the 14th century, then there was a group of people who settled and who actually used a lot of the teachings that were passed from mouth to mouth since that time, and also used books that some people believe that were brought by Mary Magdalene. There's a wonderful book called the Gospel of the Beloved, the Beloved Disciple, that some people believe that was brought by Mary Magdalene. So anyways, the whole cult of Mary Magdalene was in that area. So when the Cathars started their version of Christianity, they were very connected with those teachings. And then also there is a wonderful connection. This is a theme for another workshop. There's another connection to the Templars and what happened. And, you know, the fact that the Pope was very, very upset with this whole amazing cult to the divine feminine that flourished in the south of France, who was very independent from the Church of Rome. And because the king of France at that time was very connected with the Pope, you know, they unfortunately organized a crusade and they slaughtered the Cathars. And basically because the Cathars would have their very unique set of beliefs. But you see, that's what I was talking about in the beginning. You know, the teachings of Mary Magdalene are so beyond you know, what we see in the Bible only, because the canonical Bible is you know, it is a whole story about it. We don't have time to go through all the story, but it's almost like a much freer version and a deeper version, and I would say an exoteric version of the teachings of Christ. And so the Cathars inherited a lot of that teaching. Does that make sense, Anne?
That does make a lot of sense. And I also, yeah, and my understanding is the last guy who was slaughtered, and I don't remember what his name was, but it was about 700 years ago, and this year actually, and he said we will be back in
it was the Montsecourt slaughter,
right.
Yes.
And he said we will be back in 700 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yes. The last battle,
yep.
they burned more than I can't remember exactly the number now, but it was like, you know, more than 500 people on a collective fire. It was horrendous. It was in Montsecourt in the south of France. So
thank you.
Yes. One day maybe you can go there with me.
Before
the pandemic, I was going to take a group there. I had to cancel it, but it's
I am definitely planning on getting there. So yes, I would love to know when.
Cool. All right. So Freddie Silvangaya, exactly. Yeah, Freddie Silva is amazing. Exactly, impossible. Yes, I agree with you, Fran. Yes, wonderful. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yes, you kind of answered part of what I was going to ask. I went on a Black Madonna tour in southern France, and we saw Montsegur and some of the other Remsler, Chateau. So what do you think about that whole phenomenon when the Black Madonna, the books were coming out, and you believe that the Black Madonna is really talking about Mary Magdalene?
So again, you know, this is a huge subject, and it's a subject that I'm very passionate about, and I will be teaching soon at One Spirit about it, because there's a whole tradition of Black Madonnas in the south of France and Europe as well. But in south of France, there is like a condensed kind of energy there. It's very present. And some people say that the Black Madonna is the hidden one. So, okay, I'm just going to tell you a very brief answer, because I love this. I'm very passionate about this, but this is more than I can say right now. But just to give you a very brief explanation, what happens is the goddess, the big goddess, the big mother goddess, originated in the East, and in Egypt, it reached its apogee, and the goddess Isis. And so Isis was the all-powerful mother, god, deity, wife, lover, amazing feminine being, much more than we can ever imagine. And when the Crusades went to the Holy Land in the Middle Ages, when they started to bring back images, and they were influenced by the Egyptian culture, and they brought Isis back. So Isis is the first seed for the cult of the Madonna in Europe, which started by Bernard de Clairvaux, that was sent by the Pope during the Crusades to kill the Cathars. And so Bernard de Clairvaux saw that there was this enormous influence of the Madonna there, and that gave rise to the cult of the White Madonna. It was not, the Virgin Mary wasn't always there the way it is right now for the Catholic Church. So there was an adaptation. But then the black one stayed behind. And the black one is a much more, shall we say, earthy, feminine, sexual, magical, because Isis was a wife too. She had a beloved. And that couldn't be transported for the White Madonna. So it's the Black Madonna represents what it is that we are not willing or ready to see in our female archetype, on the core female archetype of the White Madonna. So there's a lot I can say about that. I don't know if I explain a little bit, but it's the Black Madonna is on the rise because we are bringing together all parts of the divine feminine now, whereas before there were parts that were not acceptable. Does that make sense?
But no, that's very helpful. That's very helpful because in Rockamandora, there was a statue of the Black Madonna who looked like Isis.
I know.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing.
so thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so.
Okay, Susie, this is just a little question, I think. Did you actually go to the monastery or wherever they have Mary Magdalene in her tomb? Is that
Yes.
in a monastery? Did you
No,
go?
it's a basilica. It's a basilica. It's
Okay.
the Magdalene Basilica. It's in Saint-Maximin, the south of
Okay.
France.
And can you speak about what that was like? Did you, that you have this ability to feel so much? Did you get anything from being?
Oh my God. She changed my life.
Yeah.
There was a profound shift in everything. Mary Magdalene she represents this fierce force of the feminine. It's about empowering us to be ourselves, not to be ashamed or afraid to say our truth. It is about inviting us to go out in the world and interact with the beloved, meaning the beloved is everywhere. Think about if we let go of this image of the beloved as being a person, then what Mary Magdalene was talking about is how it is that we can love life so much. How can we keep our hearts so open that we start to operate from that space most of the time, if not all the time. So I think you had an accident with your iPhone. But it's very profound. It's very profound. And that's why she's coming back so strongly now, because that's what women are in search of, and men as well. This is what the world is in search right now. We are in search of this connection that can really transform us and open us to a different kind of relationship with the beloved, which is the Father, Mother, God, which is beyond gender. So there is, when we honor the feminine, we're honoring the 50% of the equation that was taken out so that we believed that the universe was male. And that's why we are going back now and trying to find balance and union. Does that make sense? Can you guys raise your hands if you agree with what I said? Yeah, exactly. Yes, Cynthia Bourgeot, she's amazing. Okay, Kathleen Asbo, yes, exactly, beautiful. Yeah, I know her. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so thank you, Walia. Thank you. Okay, would you like to just do a very simple exercise with me? And I would like to prepare you to just savor uh, a piece of music together. And it's very inspiring. And it was a piece of music that was produced by someone in the south of France, and she composed it based on the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. So it's very beautiful. And I would like to close our conversation today with that. But before that, let's just take a moment to close our eyes for just a couple of moments, to close our eyes and to just take a deep breath. And let's just connect with the deeper meaning of the kingdom of heaven. So let's just start to connect with the concept of the kingdom of heaven. And now let's just bring this awareness to the center of our hearts. The heart is our true temple and sanctuary. It is where we may rest deeply and feel embraced by the beloved. To activate this space, let's just repeat a very simple mantra 3 times. I am love. I am one with the beloved. I am love. I am one with the beloved. I am one. I am one with the beloved. Visualize your breathing flowing in and out through your heart. And just surrender completely to love. Allow grace to infuse all your being. And allow the beloved baptize you in the fire and the water of the divine Shekinah. Now place your left hand over your heart and your right hand over it. And continue to breathe. Be aware of the presence of the One within you, who always was and always will be. Take a deep breath and rest. Take another deep breath, and when you're ready, let's just watch this beautiful presentation dedicated to Mary Magdalene.
Tout ce qui est créé, tout ce qui est né, toute la nature est unie entre le ciel et tout retournera, tout reviendra à ses origines. Il n'y a pas de péché, mais nous le faisons exister dans nos habitudes. Et le bien est en nous, au plus profond de nous, il nous enracine. L'âme peut sortir de ce monde vers un autre monde, une vie plus haute, et elle va vers le repos, où le temps se repose dans l'éternité. Que ma paix s'incarne en vous, éveillez à ne pas vous perdre, car c'est en vous et nulle part qu'en vous que vit l'enfant de l'homme.
So, my friends, I thank you so very much for being here tonight with me. If you'd like to be in touch, if you'd like the links of the what I shared tonight, you can email me at susie@susieverde.com. It's very easy, susie@susieverde.com. If you'd like to receive my newsletter, if you'd like to be in touch, please don't hesitate to contact me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so very much. Thank you, David, for all your help. Thanks to all my friends from the past, present, and future who were here tonight. Thank you. Thank you. It was awesome. May Mary Magdalene continues to bathe us with her grace and her love and her beauty. And I hope that you got a lot of insight and inspiration from the voice of the feminine tonight. Thank you. It's been a joy.